Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, December 10. Rodgers on Celtic's next Champions League target. Report by Ewan Payton. Brendan Rodgers admits an away win in the Champions League is the next big step for his Celtic team. The Hoops boss spoke to the media in Croatia ahead of tonight's European fixture against Dinamo Zagreb. It was put to the 51-year-old that the Scottish Premiership champions have ticked several boxes on the continent so far this season, including getting big wins at Parkhead and a point in Bergamo against Atalanta, and he was asked if a victory on the road was the next target. The Northern Irishman responded, "Yes, I think so. I think it's one where from last year we have been building towards performance level and results, and this year we have been fairly consistent with that in the main, and to win away from home, because you know what it means to supporters as well as the points. You know that an away win at any level, but in particular in the Champions League, it's a difficult challenge, but it's one that gives a real good feeling. So for us, it's the next step. You go to Atalanta and you defend how we did there. That gives you big confidence to know that you can go into any stadium and defend well. For us, we hope that we can then bring our attack into the game alongside that. And we know that when we do that, it gives us an opportunity to get that win. You know what it takes to do it. I think working with this group now and this team over the last 15 or 16 months, I feel that we are in a really, really good place. And I know we can arrive into these games now having some big performances, that we feel we can get big results at the level. So yes, having won in Anderlecht in 2017, that was a great night for the team and the support. We would like to give ourselves the best opportunity we can, and to do that is to look to win our next game. So we want to take that chance to do that and win away from home. Meanwhile, Celtic have issued further safety warnings over colours in Zagreb. Fans travelling to Zagreb have been told to be careful. The club's SLO, John Paul Taylor, has taken to social media to urge Hoops supporters not to wear club colours if they are not situated in the allocated away section of the stadium. He wrote on X, "Fans who have tickets out with the away sector are advised not to wear colours. Admission is at the discretion of the stewards. Fans are encouraged to carry ID at all times within the city. Evening Times Sport, December 10. Clermont's Celtic comment attacked. Report by Stuart Wilson. Philippe Clermont's assertions about Tottenham and Celtic being in a different league financially compared to Rangers have been taken apart by Andy Halliday. The Motherwell midfielder insists he doesn't like what the Belgian was trying to put across, as he pointed out that footballers will use any excuse when presented with the opportunity. The Ibrox side faced Spurs in the Europa League on Thursday night, before taking on their arch city rivals in the Scottish League Cup final on Sunday afternoon at Hampden Park. After his side defeated Ross County 3-0 in the Highlands, Clermont addressed what is a huge week for the club and commented that the matches are against teams in a different league in terms of spending power. The 33-year-old Halliday said, "I don't go along with it, especially when 5 days previously at the AGM, you're talking about building this winning mentality and you're expecting to win trophies and win every single week. Then you listen to the post-match after Ross County and he's talking about a financial gulf. One thing I have learned in football is if you give footballers any excuse, they will take it. So he has already planted that little seed of doubt in their heads. You're telling them, you're coming up against teams on Thursday and Sunday. They've got a lot more money than us." It wasn't a comment I particularly liked. Managers will sometimes come out with this when it suits them, but when they come up against Celtic at the weekend, I don't think they're worlds apart financially, at least in terms of the wage bill. Report by Stuart Wilson. Evening Times Sport, December 10. Nick Rodger reports golf in the rough as another Scottish course faces closure. We are an erudite old lot, the golf writers. The other day, for instance, I was speaking to a professional coach about the 4 stages of competence learning model. Said model relates to the psychological states involved in the process of skill progression, or, in this correspondent's case, skill regression, as I continue my tortured descent through the circles of golfing hell, like Dante burrowing into the inferno. Anyway, according to the experts in the scientific study of minds and behaviours, the first of these 4 stages suggests that individuals are initially unaware of how little they know. They are, in effect, unconscious of their incompetence. Of course, these psychologists could always follow myself and some of my colleagues up the opening couple of holes at an Association of Golf Writers winter outing, and they will soon discover, through a startling array of cussings, curiosities and calamities, that we are, in fact, extremely conscious of our relentless blooming incompetence. The sports editor is very conscious of it too. The good golfing folk of Dundee, meanwhile, are no doubt questioning the competence, surely not, of their local councillors after it was announced that the Caird Park Municipal Course is set to be closed. Dundee is the 4th largest city in Scotland, and it could be left without a municipal golf course. That is disgraceful, said the club captain Ian Gordon. In many quarters, the decision, unsurprisingly, has gone down like a bag of spanners. We all know that cash-strapped councils are faced with plugging the kind of vast black holes that the cosmic connoisseurs operating the NASA telescopes would be intrigued to peer into. Not for the first time, the game that Scotland gave to the world is on the chopping block. Of course, when you have schools being closed here, vital health and social care services being cut there, and various cloths getting snipped everywhere, some folk will look at golf stamping its feet in a tantrum and have little sympathy. In the grand scheme of things, and all that. But municipal courses have had a trying time in recent years. Once valued resources have withered on the vine, and many of these affordable, accessible routes into golf have been locked up, fenced off, and choked and tangled by the weeds of neglect and despair. The demise of yet another public course in Dundee, the Camperdown facility was shut back in 2020, is a particularly sore one, given the proximity of the city of discovery to the cradle of golf over the Silvery Tay in St Andrews. With an eye on current trends, good old Cairdy will probably become some massive cycle lane, or a housing estate with access via a massive cycle lane. The plight of these venues cropped up during the AIG Women's Open at the Old Course in August, when Martin Slumbers, who is retiring as the chief executive of the R&A, was asked to give his thoughts on the toils and troubles of the country's municipals. He said, "I'm actually very concerned about it. I think the message to councils is work with us a little bit more and help us explain that golf is good for people's health, it's good for the economy, it's good for society, it's good for the environment." If you look at the R&A's jurisdiction, we have 62.3 million people consuming golf at the moment. There was a 5 million increase between 2016 and COVID, and 5 million more since COVID. We're going to need more facilities. This consuming of golf continues to evolve with ranges, simulators, and entertainment facilities providing new markets with fresh opportunities away from the traditional green grass offerings. The drive, meanwhile, towards shorter formats of the game, in this frantic age when leisure time seems to be shorter than a resigned sigh, continues. Back in October, the R&A, in cahoots with various architects and industry experts, revealed and released a Golf for Smaller Spaces guide. Good things come in small bulk, and the 48-page manual details compact golf operations, the process of establishing scaled-down forms of the game, and the commercial considerations that apply. The idea is that if facilities, particularly those in cities or urban areas, can utilize the space they have, then golf becomes more accessible to a wider demographic. Caird Park has both an 18-hole and a 9-hole layout. Could the council not consult the manual and fathom out a manageable product without shutting the entire thing completely? Alas, the end is nigh. Anger and a sense of nostalgia abound. The munis in certain areas of Scotland, of course, always had a certain, shall we say, je ne sais quoi. Back in 1995, the Herald ran a story about various crime sprees at Caird Park, and no, it was not concerning the shenanigans at one of the aforementioned Association of Golf Writers outings. There were tales of players being mugged on the course, the clubhouse being robbed and firebombed, the vice-captain getting held at knife point, and joyriders dumping torch cars on the fairways. Nothing would focus the golfing mind over a tricky 6-footer, quite like a stolen Ford Escort suddenly screeching towards the sixth green. A round of golf at Caird Park has been turned into a survival course, stated the Herald. Nearly 30 years on, Caird Park, it seems, has lost its own fight for survival, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, December 10. Rangers have turned a corner, report by Johnny McFarlane. Rangers may be sitting 11 points behind Celtic in the race for the title, but former Ibrox captain Lee McCulloch watched the 3-0 win over Ross County on Sunday, convinced better times lie ahead. Philippe Clement's men have suffered from a lack of cutting edge this term, but the return of Danilo from injury, Yanis Hagi from contractual banishment, and Hamza Igamani's sudden and spectacular acclimatisation to Scottish football have seen attacking vigour restored. With 13 goals in the last 3 games, Rangers' resurgence could not have come at a better time, with 2 huge tests just around the corner. Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur may be struggling, but Clement was not wrong to call them one of the best teams in the world. It is less than a month since they dismantled Manchester City 4-0 on their own turf, while Celtic await in the Premier Sports Cup final on Sunday. And McCulloch points to the sudden plethora of forward options as to why he's filled with confidence for the tests to come. He asserted, Rangers have definitely turned a corner. I think with the performance at the weekend and the way they started the game, the speed they passed the ball, the chances created, goals scored, it was very, very convincing. You cannot disagree with that. It sets us up for a massive week ahead. Probably Rangers are in the best position they've been in all season, with Hagi, Danilo and the Igaman getting game time, and the manager being able to rotate the squad. Coming up are 2 massive games, the most important one being Spurs because it's the next one, and it's a chance to go in progress. I think there are options there for a manager. I think there's confidence back in the dressing room, and I think there's that connection with the stands as well. So it is positive this week. When you look at that performance on Sunday, I think there is hope. Spurs have got good individual players. They're playing in one of the best leagues in the world. But when it comes down to a one-off game, you're at home. It's a full house. You use the atmosphere and you're in good form yourself. Then I would say, bring it on. It is a chance to go and probably cement qualification. When you've got a full stadium, it doesn't matter who you're playing. When you've got a full stadium, you use them as your 12th man. There's teams all around the world that struggle to play in a full stadium, and you've got to use that. I think the key to that is starting the game well. I watched a bit of their game at the weekend and they're 2-0 up. They were brilliant. They're playing against Chelsea, right enough. But there's a bit of a fragile side to Spurs, and that's where, as a Rangers player, you've got to take confidence for that and believe that you can use the fans out there and go and put a right show on and get a result. One of the intriguing elements of Spurs arriving to play Europa League football at Ibrox is the return of former Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou. The Greek Aussie is sure to get a hot reception, especially if there's a sense that he's a manager under pressure. And McCulloch said, as a player, you kind of get involved in that, but I completely see it. A guy who managed in Scotland for the club's biggest rivals coming back here, He'll know the reception that he'll probably get. That's for other people. It's just about starting the game well and getting the fans and the terraces with you. There's no reason why they can't. After the result and performance on Sunday, you're set up perfectly. You're going into Thursday with no fear. Regardless of who plays on Thursday, I think there's a chance there. Celtic is a bigger game, no doubt about it, but you need to go into Thursday first and park Sunday mentally. You need to go and get one step closer to get into the next stages, and the manager will just be hoping to be injury-free after that game. Report by Johnny McFarlane. Evening Times Sport, December 11. Dynamo star bills Celtic as good opponent. Report by Joe Donnelly. Martin Baturina described Celtic as a very good opponent in the aftermath of Tuesday night's goalless stalemate in Croatia, while expressing regret for the chances Dinamo Zagreb missed on the night. Half chances fell to both sides in the course of their Matchday 6 UEFA Champions League encounter, but Celtic keeper Kasper Schmeichel and his opposite counterpart Daniel Zagorac were in fine form. Speaking after the match, Dinamo attacking midfielder Baturina cast an analytical eye over the performance, as the Croatian side now stared down Arsenal and AC Milan in their final matches. He said, "We wanted to win, but Celtic was a very good opponent. Maybe we can regret the missed chances, but all in all, an even game. We lacked a bit of composure in the last pass in the first half. We entered the second half a little better, had some chances, did not take advantage of them. They were not theirs either, and that's it. We all know what kind of teams Arsenal and AC Milan are, but Dynamo has beaten teams like that before, and we hope for the best. It's not easy, but that's the European pace. That's why you train. If nothing else, it's a good school, so that this doesn't happen in the future. I always analyse where I can do better. Against Celtic, I could have been a little calmer in a few situations, but when you do a lot of defence, it's not easy either." Meanwhile, another Dinamo Zagreb star saluted the serious Celtic side. Marko Pejacha insists Celtic are a serious team and had no complaints about the draw. "Remember, they have only lost once in the Champions League this season," he said, "and that was away to Borussia Dortmund. So I think we can be proud of our display, and we looked really solid throughout the game. This was a fair result, although we did have some opportunities to win it, including one from me. It was a shame their keeper made such a good save. Celtic had more of the ball in the first half, but in the second half we pressed higher up and were better. I thought we defended well, and we go into the remaining games of the tournament with optimism. Our main priority now is to start picking up some wins in the league." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, December 11. How much have Celtic earned in total from the Champions League? Reports David Irvin. Celtic banked another Champions League bonus last night for their draw against Dinamo Zagreb. Brendan Rodgers' side are up to 9 points in the league phase of the UEFA competition this season, meaning significant performance-related bonuses for the club. UEFA rewards clubs for wins and draws in the league phase of the tournament, on top of the payment for competing at this stage. Celtic received €18.62 million, split into one major and one secondary payment, for qualifying for the league phase of the Champions League. The club have since added €7 million to their payout as a result of their 2 wins and 3 draws so far. Each win earns an additional €2.1 million, with draws worth €700,000 to clubs. Celtic are guaranteed another payment when the league phase standings are finalised, with the bottom club receiving €275,000 and clubs earning that figure again for every position they finish higher in the league table. Should Celtic qualify for the play-off round, then they would also receive a €1 million bonus. Going purely on money already secured for Celtic, the club have already earned £20.8 million. Guaranteeing income for Celtic through participation and the win-draw bonuses thus far. League phase participation, €18.62 million, €17.87 million down payment and €750,000 balance making up that figure. Win bonuses against Slovan Bratislava and RB Leipzig, €2.1 million times 2 equals €4.2 million. Draw bonuses against Atalanta, Club Brugge and Dinamo Zagreb, €700,000 times 3 equals €2.1 million. League ranking bonus as a minimum of €275,000, and that is increased by the same amount for every placing higher than bottom, so will be higher when positions are finalised. Guaranteed total so far, €25.2 million, £20.8 million. Evening Times Sport, December 11. Dynamo boss in defiant, "We should have won," Celtic message. Report by Ewan Payton. Dinamo Zagreb manager insisted that only one team looked like winning last night's Champions League tie against Celtic, and it was not Brendan Rodgers' team. Nenad Bjelica was adamant, when speaking after the match, that the Croatians were deserving of all 3 league phase points in Zagreb. The Scottish Premiership champions failed to find the breakthrough despite dominating the ball for the majority of the goalless game, with 68% possession. The stalemate seemed to be an opportunity missed for both teams, although it was undoubtedly a better point for the visitors, given their next 2 games include a home tie against bottom-of-the-pile Young Boys, whereas Dynamo have to play Arsenal and AC Milan. Bjelica said, "My boys played a great game. They achieved everything I asked of them. We did not allow anything to the opponent. We had a very good chance, 2 shots, so if anyone should have won, it was us. We did a great job in the middle, and we had momentum going forward." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, December 11. Martin Hannon asks, "How do we bridge rugby chasm between private and state schools. The news at the weekend that the great baseball player Juan Soto is about to sign the richest deal in the history of professional sport got me thinking about how rugby here in Scotland could benefit. In case you have missed it, Soto has left the New York Yankees after his best season ever, which included helping them to win the World Series. A free agent at the season's end, the 26-year-old Dominican outfielder will complete signing his new deal after medical analysis, but that should be a formality, and he will join the Yankees' great local rivals, the New York Mets. Think Rangers' best striker signing for Celtic, or vice versa. And he will be on a 15-year contract worth a staggering $765 million, or about £600 million. He specialises in getting on base, and does so almost more times than any other Major League Baseball player. Over the course of his career, Soto will become a billionaire thanks to endorsements and other activities, but it is the size of his salary alone that has shaken baseball and several other sports in the USA. The main question seeming to be, where will it all end? Mets owner Steve Cohen, a hedge fund magnate, can afford Soto as he is worth a reputed $20 billion, and he is determined that the poor relations tag the Mets get when compared to the Yankees will be a thing of the past. So how can such an eye-watering deal help rugby in Scotland? At first sight it obviously cannot do so, but think about this. Every child in the Dominican Republic will now be thinking, if he can do it, so can I. Maybe not to the tune of hundreds of millions, but they will know if they are good enough and work hard enough, they can make a decent living out of playing glorified rounders. These thoughts occurred to me after I was reviewing the results of the Schools Cup finals that took place at Murrayfield last Wednesday. The names of the finalists in the main boys' tournaments were all too familiar. Every single one was an independent school, as private schools call themselves these days. State schools just did not figure, and no state school has won the Under-18 Cup since Bell Baxter High School beat Dollar Academy in season 2006-2007. But then they did have Peter Horn and Chris Fusaro playing for them. The Under-16 Cup and its predecessor, the Under-15 Cup, has a similar story. No state school has won that age group since Galashiels Academy in 2005-2006. Perhaps more worrying were the number of schools' teams that were unable to fulfill fixtures earlier in the tournament, with the main reason given on the SRU website being insufficient number of players. I am well aware of the difficulties that have faced state schools rugby in recent years. The SRU long again realised that there was a problem with rugby in state schools, and we are in the midst of a strategy that is trying to improve the situation, and I am assured that it is working slowly but surely, with a claimed 176 schools playing some kind of part in the strategy. The COVID-19 pandemic is certainly to blame for some of the problems facing state schools. Some youngsters just stayed away for 2 seasons and never came back. Yes, independent schools suffered too, but they bounced back better, so that they now rule the school's roast. It's not a good look for rugby for the young people of Scotland if it appears elitist. And it certainly looks lopsided when independent schools, which have about 5% of the school-age population, are winning cup after cup at Murrayfield, and have been doing so for years. I asked several top people in youth rugby why the independent schools still completely dominate our sport at that level, and the answer almost unanimously was one word: resources. State schools just cannot compete with those independent schools that pour money and coaching expertise into rugby, and even well-organised state school setups like Lindsay Academy and Peebles High School are playing second fiddle to the likes of George Watson's College and Stuart's Melville College. Based purely on results alone, the rugby gulf between independent and state schools is widening. There is also plenty of anecdotal evidence that young boys in general are not really into rugby these days, though there are more young girls playing than ever before. There is one message that I think is not getting through to educationalists in the state sector. They should realise that pupils, male and female, could make a living playing professional rugby, and anyone with talent should be pointed in that direction. Incentivise youth and make them at least think of rugby as a means of making a living. In Scottish rugby, no one will ever earn the sums going to Juan Soto, but why not get our youth to appreciate that in this professional era, there might be a paid career in rugby for them, says Martin Hannon. Evening Times Sport, December 12. Graham McGarry asks, does some Celtic sloppiness offer Rangers hope for final? Back in the days before I worked for this newspaper, lest I be accused of using insider information and my bookie's account gets suspended, profitable as it is for them, I was tipped off by a pal that a team in the lower leagues had an injury crisis. The student loan should therefore be invested in backing their opponents, he encouraged, who were still priced up as the underdog, and a fair chunk of it Julie was. Sadly, the 9 missing players included only 2 or 3 who would normally have been expected to start. The favourites Julie won 2-0, and it was back to the pot noodles and merry-down for me. I was rather reminded of this painful episode from my misspent youth, when the build-up to Celtic's game against Dinamo Zagreb became dominated by stories of a full-blown injury crisis for the Croatians, who were apparently in turmoil. I don't know if the back pages of the Croatian papers had dusted off the cracked Dinamo crest, but that was the general vibe. Subsequently, expectations were raised at Celtic. Winless away from home in the Champions League for 7 years, let's not forget. We're going to roll into the ramshackle Maxima Stadium, roll over the Dynamo under-18s or some such, and leave with 3 points that would all but guarantee them a place in the playoffs. My diet and financial position may have improved, if only ever so slightly, since my pal's tip went awry, but it seems such tall tales of half a team being in the intensive care ward are still a firm fixture. As it turned out, Zagreb managed to field a pretty strong side, so while I can understand the Celtic fans who are disappointed with the rather drab goalless draw their team secured in the context of the build-up, Perhaps it was a better point than Brendan Rodgers and his men are being given credit for. The bigger picture, of course, is that Celtic are now 4 unbeaten in the Champions League since that tonking from Borussia Dortmund, and this was their second consecutive clean sheet on their travels, after also shutting out an Atalanta team who scored twice against Real Madrid in Bergamo on Tuesday night. So they have undoubtedly tightened up and vastly improved at the back, and the way they managed the game in Zagreb hints at a development in their understanding of the level they are at, which is competing. With a Celtic Park meeting with young boys up next, where 3 points should have the Scottish champions home and hosed, it made sense not to signal for the cavalry charge towards the end in Zagreb, in case it left Celtic exposed at the other end, a movie we have seen far too often from them in such matches over the years. You may have sensed a "but" in the air, mind you, and you would be right. But Rodgers was correct to point out that the attacking play of his side was below par, and the fans are right to feel a little disappointed that their team did not manage to find a way past an opponent who, injuries or not, were not quite on their level. Celtic dominated the ball, but could do little with it. Any Celtic team, never mind a Rodgers one, having just one shot on target in a match is rarer than, well, a poor bookie. After a sloppy display at the back against Hibs at the weekend, albeit Celtic still ran out 3-0 winners in the end, is there a little bit of concern just creeping in among the supporters that the team is not quite firing on all cylinders ahead of Sunday's League Cup final against Rangers? And might that offer Philippe Clement and his side just a smidgen of hope? Maybe, a little. But even allowing for the impressive upturn in Rangers' performances and results since Clement threw off the shackles and deployed his current 4-man attack, it is a bit of a reach. Rangers fans on the whole will likely be approaching the match at Hampden with as much concern as they do confidence. Celtic, after all, are 6 unbeaten in the fixture and won the first meeting between the sides this season by 3-0 in September. They are 11 points clear of Rangers at the top of the Premiership. As Celtic manager, Rodgers has won 15 of his 19 meetings against the Ibrox side, drawing 3 and losing just 1. His team have scored 43 goals across those matches and have conceded just 12. So, can Rangers win? Yes, of course they can. On their day, they clearly pose an attacking threat, and they certainly have players who can hurt just about any team. It is telling, though, that in conversations with friends and colleagues ahead of the game, people are invariably speaking about Rangers' chances in the same sort of language you might use if Celtic were, with all that due respect, coming up against a Motherwell or St Mirren. We have all heard the patronising language directed towards the underdog. It's all about Celtic having an off day, and if the goalkeeper is at the top of his game, the whole team needs to be 10 out of 10, while Celtic are at 4s and 5s, never mind at 6s and 7s. That Rangers are now being grouped in with the also-rans and attracting this sort of chat rather spells out just where the gap between the sides currently sits. So, if all of the above happens, of course Rangers can pull off a shock, but that would be what it was. In the face of the damning statistics outlined, you would not even get me betting on it, says Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, December 12. Invincible expects Rangers pain as Celtic show old hallmarks. Report by Graham McGarry. He is arguably as much remembered for the crunching tackle that he put in on Rangers forward Kenny Miller in an Old Firm clash, as he is for being part of Brendan Rodgers' Invincibles team. And when he caught up with the Scottish press this week, Jozo Simunovic predicted further pain would soon be inflicted upon the Ibrox side. The former Celtic defender, now a youth coach with Dinamo Zagreb, was impressed by his old team as he watched them on Champions League duty on Tuesday night, and he was relieved that the match ended in a stalemate given his split loyalties. There are no such dilemmas about where his allegiances lie ahead of Sunday's League Cup final, and he is sure that the current Celtic team will emerge victorious once more, because they remind him of the flawless outfit he himself was a part of. Simunovic said, "I think they will win. If they play the way they did in Zagreb and in the last couple of months. Celtic set the standard, so they just need to keep going. It reminds me of the Celtic when I used to be there and we used to play, especially that season when we were unbeaten, so I am looking forward to it. Of course against Rangers it is always a tough game, but I really do trust these guys and this group." Whether this Celtic team can emulate the class of 2016-17 and go the entire season unbeaten domestically remains to be seen, and that is harder for Simunovic to predict. He continued, "It is hard to compare teams. It is many years gone already, so some things have changed as well. The structure of the play has also changed, so it is hard to compare. I think they are in very good shape and stable. I would say very stable. They are doing good in the league as well. Of course it is always hard to play away games. It is not the same as Celtic Park in terms of atmosphere with the fans and everything. But at the end of the day, a point each in Zagreb was well deserved." Simunovic is confident that he will also be celebrating Champions League progression for Celtic in the weeks ahead, and he continued, "With this new format it works really well. So many teams and so many games. Hopefully that's definitely what Celtic like. But also we can say format and blah blah, but the team is also in good shape. It is looking good, playing good, so that's the most important part of all." Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, December 12. Key Rangers player to miss out tonight's Europa League tie. Report by Ewan Payton. Philippe Clement has confirmed that Tom Lawrence will miss Rangers' Europa League tie against Tottenham Hotspur tonight. The Wales international has been out of action since the Scottish League Cup semi-final win over Motherwell at the start of November. At the time, Clement ruled the attacking midfielder out for 4 to 6 weeks, and with the cup final against Celtic coming up in a few days, it would seem that Lawrence is a potential doubt. Said Clement, "Tom Lawrence will also be out for this game, and Rabbi Matondo is training with the team, but not fit enough yet to be played in a squad. Oscar Cortes is coming closer, but that's for a few minutes, not for too long, but he is available for the squad. Clement insists that despite Spurs' recent poor form, he is expecting an almighty test for his players this evening, and added, "It's a big challenge, but that's what we like, that's what we love, that's what we want. We had already in the past year a few really good opponents here on European nights. This club has a big history in that. So for the players, these are very challenging and really nice evenings that they can write history. So that's why players want to play for Rangers. I think a few weeks ago I saw Spurs against Manchester City. They were not in such a bad place at that moment. So it's Premier League, it's the highest level in the world in that way, and things are really close together. So you can lose points here. I think it's still a really good team." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, December 12. Ange bemoans Spurs injury crisis ahead of Rangers tie. Report by Ewan Payton. Ange Postecoglou has bemoaned Tottenham's injury crisis as the worst of his managerial career on the eve of his side's Europa League tie against Rangers tonight. The Australian's Premier League outfit will take on Philippe Clement and his players at Ibrox. Several key players are out of action, including Guillermo Vicario, Mickey van den Ven, Christian Romero, Ben Davis, Brennan Johnson, Wilson Odobert, Richarlison and Mikey Moore. Asked outright if this is the worst amount of injuries he's ever had to deal with as a manager, Postecoglou said, "Yes, when you've had it 2 seasons in a row as well." Obviously, with the weekend's fallout, Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven, we're still getting some clarity around the prognosis, but they both picked up injuries and will keep them out again. So that's disappointing for us, because obviously we're pretty thin on numbers. But we have had to deal with that for quite a while now, and everyone else from the weekend got through okay. Rodrigo Bentancur is obviously available. He's been suspended, so at least we'll get him back. It is challenging. We've obviously also got Ben Davis out, who has played a big part for us, while the other 2 have been out. It is no secret we are thin on numbers, both squad-wise and position-wise, but it is what it is, and we cannot change that. We have got some big games coming up, starting at Ibrox, and we will have to deal with what we've got. I am still very confident that we'll be able to get the job done with the players that are out, I suppose. I never think it's just bad luck. I mean, some of it is. I've never lost a goalkeeper for this period of time. I've had other issues that we've had, but some of it is reoccurring, and particularly this year in terms of the guys coming back and sort of re-injuring. So it is stuff we're looking at, and we're also trying to explore whether we can do things better. I think last year was a bit different from this year. Last year we kind of hit us across the board. This year it's more of a case of guys who are coming back that are more affected. Not going to lie, we've got a core in the group who have been playing a hell of a lot and are getting through it okay, but it is something we're trying to address. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, December 12. Celtic's next Champions League rivals rocked by tragedy. Report by Mark Walker. Celtic's next Champions League rivals, Young Boys, have been rocked by tragedy ahead of their latest defeat after the 4-year-old son of star Meshack Elia passed away, and the Swiss side's captain Loris Benito admitted their minds were not on the game as they crashed to a 5-1 defeat to Stuttgart. Celtic face Young Boys next month in their penultimate game in the new look competition, and know a win will guarantee them a place in the knockout stage. Young Boys sit bottom of the 36-team league with no wins, no points, and the worst goal difference of -19, having scored only 3 goals and conceded 22 in their 6 games. However, football was put into perspective after the team discovered Elia's son had died in his Congolese homeland just before the game. Benito said, "In sporting terms, it was very frustrating, but it is also very difficult to talk about sport now after what we have experienced in the last 24 hours. The ground was pulled out from under our feet in the hotel when we heard the news, but we knew we had to come here for the match. We had to see it through. When we scored the goal, we all held the jersey of Meschak, a gesture that achieves absolutely nothing, but is of course well-intentioned. It was such a brutal situation. You try to do something to show him that you're with him. It is extremely difficult. What happened was on everyone's mind. He is part of our family. The fact that this happened to him was a terrible shock to us in the hotel. In terms of football, we were not good enough on the pitch, as we have been a few times before in the Champions League. We conceded far too easily." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, December 12. Trailblazing Scottish referee awarded university honorary degree. Report by Craig Williams. A trailblazer in world rugby has been awarded an honorary degree from Robert Gordon University, RGU, to top off a landmark year in her profession. Holly Davidson, who grew up in Aboyne, Aberdeenshire, has been recognised with a Doctor of Philosophy for her inspirational rise in rugby officiating, which continues to reach new heights. In February, she became the first woman assistant referee in a men's Six Nations Championship match when England took on Wales at Twickenham. In July, she then became the first woman to referee a match involving reigning World Cup champions South Africa. At just 32 years old, her long list of record-breaking career highlights will most certainly continue to be added to in the months and years ahead. Professor Steve Olivier, Principal and Vice-Chancellor at RGU, said, "It is a privilege to honour Holly Davidson with this richly deserved honorary award. She has been a pioneer in world rugby, and indeed in all sports, as she continues to achieve new milestones and set new boundaries. She is an inspiration to all youngsters and someone that students from all backgrounds can look up to as they progress through their studies and cement their own fledgling careers." Honing her skills in the Northeast, Holly played rugby in Aberdeenshire before being selected for the Scottish youth teams ahead of going to university. Reaching national under-20 level, injuries prevented her making a full international appearance and forced her into looking at other opportunities within the game. In addition to her progress through the world ranks as a Scottish rugby referee, she has also openly and passionately about the need to inspire the next generation, declaring that rugby is for everyone. The international referee has also assisted Street Sport, the flagship programme of children's charity Dennis Law Legacy Trust, by championing women participation in sport and helping to raise participation among young girls from 8% to 40%. On her award, Holly said, "I never imagined my journey from playing rugby in Aboyne would lead me to here. I am incredibly honoured to receive this award from Robert Gordon University and hope my journey encourages everyone to reach out for their goals." Internationally, in 2021, she became the first woman to referee World Cup finals in both rugby sevens and the more traditional 15-a-side union format of the game. By the age of just 31, she had already officiated at 2 Women's Rugby World Cups and an Olympic Games. Holly Davidson was recognised with a Doctor of Philosophy honoris causa award on Tuesday. Report by Craig Williams. Evening Times Sport, December 13. Matthew Lindsay on how cooking lessons have brought Rangers players to the boil. Philippe Clement has revealed how giving the Rangers players cooking lessons has helped the Ibrox club to come to the boil ahead of the Premier Sports Cup final against Celtic at Hampden on Sunday. Clement's side performed superbly in the Europa League phase match against Tottenham Hotspur in Govan yesterday, and were unlucky to only draw 1-1 with their Premier League rivals at the end of the 90 minutes. The Belgian was delighted with how his Charges, who will defend the League Cup they won last year against their city rivals, played against Ange Postecoglou's men. He was particularly impressed with how Nicholas Raskin acquitted himself in midfield and revealed how addressing his eating habits with the catering staff at Auchenhowie had helped his countryman to rediscover his best form. He said, "The biggest difference with Nico is that physically he's taking really good steps. He has spoken himself about his diet. That's also a thing which the club is helping with. The chef in the club helps Nico with his food, but it's not only with him. We're giving cooking lessons to all the guys who don't have a wife or who are single, so they learn also. You can laugh with it, but those are important details, that they learn what the good food is, what they need to eat, not the wrong things. They learn something out of it that will help them also in the future if they have a relationship with somebody. I know I never was good in that, so I get some stick about that with my wife. So it's good lessons from my side. No, to stay serious, Nico, tactically, is taking really big steps about what to do, and he's still a young player. He didn't play this role so much, and for sure not at this level, but he's taking really good lessons, and all the staff is helping in that way. After every game, we are showing images of what was good and what can be better. With a squad like that, you need to get all the details right, because football is a game with a lot of details that you need to take control of, the things that you can control, and Nico is learning really fast. Same as with Mohamed Diamonte, same with Connor Barron, all young midfielders, all exciting talents. It's about in the midfield, it's the engine of the team. It's important to do the right things, the right moments, and like this, controlling the game really well, to take out transitions, to have good positioning, but also to be available and knowing where to play the balls. So yes, I'm really happy with the evolution of Nico, but not only him. Rangers centre-half John Souttar limped off in the first half and was replaced by Leon Balogun and Hamza Igamani, who scored at the second half, also appeared to pull up with cramp before making way to Cyril Dessers. Clement was unsure if the pair will be available to face Celtic at Hampden on Sunday when he spoke afterwards. "I cannot say anything for the moment," he said. "I wish I could, because that would ease my mind. But it's not the case. So we will see in the next 2 days how it is with them. About freshness, we're not going to think about that. We're going to recover as fast as possible, and we're going to throw all our energy into that game at Hampden. We want to give our fans the good feeling that they had last season in this League Cup. And this performance means that players can have a lot of belief in what they are doing individually and also together in the next couple of days and play a really good game against Celtic." Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, December 13. Martinez Loza leaves job as Scotland women's coach. Report by Ewan Payton. Pedro Martinez Loza has left his role as the head coach of Scotland women's team. The Spaniard has been moved on after the national team's failure to qualify for the UEFA Women's Euros in 2025. Scotland lost 2-0 to Finland in their play-off final at the start of December, and the Scottish FA will look to replace Martinez, who had been in charge since the summer of 2021. Ian Maxwell, SFA Chief Executive, said, "I would like to thank Pedro for his efforts over the past 3.5 years. While we should not lose sight of the recent unbeaten run and winning promotion from Nations League Group B, the primary objective was to qualify for a major tournament again." Martinez Loza added, "I am immensely proud of the journey we have undertaken as a group, and it has been a privilege to lead the Scotland women's national team. Watching young talent flourish alongside our experienced players has been a highlight of my team here. I leave with fond memories and gratitude to my squad, backroom staff, and the passionate supporters who have been unwavering in their backing. Scotland will always hold a special place in my heart, and I wish the team every success in the future." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, December 13. Hamza Igamani now being watched and is subject to scout mission. Report by Mark Walker. Morocco assistant manager Abdel Bouhazama has been assigned to watch in-form Rangers striker Hamza Igamani and could be at Hampden on Sunday for the Old Firm Scottish League Cup final showdown. The 22-year-old has made a huge impression in recent weeks, and his strike against Tottenham in the Europa League took his tally to 5 goals in his last 5 games. He revealed earlier this week that his ambition is to one day play for Morocco, who became the first ever African nation to reach the World Cup semi-finals in the latest tournament in Qatar. Igamani has been in preliminary lists for squads before and helped them win the Under-23s African Cup Nations last year, but has yet to play the Atlas Lions. Now Morocco manager Walid Regragui has dispatched his French number 2, former Angers boss Bouhazama, to watch Igamani and sent him detailed reports on his progress, according to the Moroccan media, and he could be in Glasgow to monitor him at the cup final between Celtic and Rangers. And if he impresses, he could be in the squad for the next games, a World Cup qualification double-header against Niger and Tanzania in March. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, December 13. Rangers sweat over 2 key players. Report by Ewan Payton. Rangers face a nervous wait to discover if both Hamza Egermine and John Souttar will pass fit to play against Celtic this weekend. The key Rangers pair both hobbled off the field last night during the 1-1 draw in the Europa League against Tottenham. Concerningly, Souttar went down after passing the ball unchallenged, as he appeared to clutch his groin area when leaving the pitch alongside the medical team. Leon Balogun was his replacement to fill in alongside Robin Proper. Meanwhile, Igamani appeared to burn out after putting in a tremendous shift against the Premier League defence. Philippe Clement said, "I cannot say anything at the moment, it's too close after the game. I wish I could, because that would ease my mind, but it's not the case, so we will see in the next 2 days how it is with them." The good news for the Belgian on the team selection front is that both Yanis Hagi and Danilo will be available to choose from for this Sunday's Scottish League Cup final. Report by Ewan Payton.
From the Glasgow Times, Monday, 16th of December, from the sports section. Moral victory. Chris Sutton trolls Rangers amid Celtic win. Article written by Ewan Payton. Chris Sutton couldn't resist a pop at Rangers after former club Celtic triumphed in the Scottish League Cup final yesterday afternoon. Brendan Rodgers' side won the showpiece event on penalties at Hampden Park, with Daisen Maeda tucking away the final spot kick to claim the Hoops' 119th major trophy. It was a pulsating final, particularly in the second half, which ended 3-3 after 90 minutes. There were no further goals in extra time, so penalties in front of the Rangers supporters decided the game. Ruud van Yilmaz was the only player who failed to score from 12 yards, as Kasper Schmeichel got down well, low to his left to prevent the left back from scoring. Sutton was delighted with Celtic after the win, and, in typical fashion, he took the chance to tease the Hoops City rivals. In the aftermath of the game, he wrote an X, "Well played Celtic and Brendan Rodgers, absolutely relentless." Another moral victory maybe for Rangers though. This is of course a thinly veiled swipe towards Clement and his comments following the 3-3 draw between the teams at Ibrox in April. After Rabbi Matondo's last gasp equaliser in that game, which cancelled out what looked like a match-winning Adam Ida strike just moments before, the Belgian claimed that despite the stalemate, the result left his team as the moral winners of the derby clash. His comment read, "I'm happy about the reaction, they showed personality and at the end, we are the moral winners of this fight, of this game. With a lot of passion, everything the supporters want, everything this club wants. Everything this club is about, they showed in the second half. They need to show it in the next couple of weeks too, in every challenge we have. There's a big evolution in that. They showed something special today. I always believed they had the quality to do it, and they showed it in the second half. It doesn't give guarantees, but if you keep pushing like we did in the second half, you can turn things even against a good team like Celtic. And that report was written by Ewan Payton and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 16th of December, from the sports section, man brutally attacked and cop injured ahead of Old Firm in Glasgow. Report by Ben Waddle. A young man was brutally attacked ahead of the Old Firm clash in Glasgow yesterday, while a cop was also left injured following a separate incident. Police are carrying out inquiries after a disorder in the city on Sunday, December the 15th, before the Rangers v Celtic Cup final at Hampden Park. At around 12:25pm, a disturbance broke out between a group of people on Argyle Street in the city centre. During the shocking incident, missiles were lobbed at cops and one officer was injured as a result. Yesterday afternoon, appalling footage shared online showed Celtic and Rangers ultras battling in the city centre ahead of the game. Fans are also filmed running down Argyle Street wearing Santa hats as they clash with balaclava-clad rival supporters and the police. The terrible scenes apparently filmed on the busy street left shocked onlookers forced to take refuge in doorways as shop staff locked the front doors of their premises. A video of the incident showed cops struggling to deal with the large presence of football supporters. Elsewhere, the police also received reports of windows being smashed at the premises on Hibbard Street at around 12:30pm, and an investigation is now underway to track down the culprits. Meanwhile, in a video which has been widely shared on social media, a football fan could be seen lobbing a flare into a pub which is believed to be on Hibbard Street. On top of those incidents, at around 12:55pm, officers received a report of a 26-year-old man having been seriously assaulted in the Argyle Street area. He was rushed to hospital for treatment, and inquiries into the brutal attack are ongoing. Due to the serious disorder, a superintendent of Police Scotland authorised officers to use special powers available under the Section 60 of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act of 1994. The Section 60 stop and search power remained in force until 9pm on Sunday. Meanwhile, during the match, a 41-year-old man was arrested and charged in connection with an alleged drugs offence. A 30-year-old man was also arrested and charged in connection with allegedly being in possession of a pyrotechnic. Both men will be reported to the Procurator Fiscal. Chief Superintendent Steve Dolan said, "We deal with a number of incidents in Glasgow city centre involving individuals engaging in disorder and violence. Our inquiries are ongoing to identify those who were involved, and we will take appropriate action against them. I urge anyone who has any information that could assist our investigation to contact us. I want to make it clear that the use of weapons and violence will not be tolerated, and retrospective inquiries are being carried out. We are following a number of lines of investigation, including reviewing CCTV and footage in social media. I would like to thank the majority of fans for their conduct throughout today." A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, "Inquiries into these incidents are ongoing, and anyone with information is asked to contact Police Scotland on 101, quoting the reference 1100 of December 11th, or call anonymously Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. In the article was written by Ben Waddle. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 16th of December, from the sports section, Partick Thistle devastated as lifelong fan tragically dies. Report by Ben Waddle. Partick Thistle has been left devastated after a much-loved fan has died following an 18-month cancer battle. Susan Watson passed away recently after being diagnosed with terminal cancer in the summer of 2022. The long-time supporter of the Jags was a season ticket holder and player sponsor. Her story began with the club, when she chose to support them after falling in love with their red and yellow colours. The lifelong fan also had a collection of Thistle memorabilia, including Scotland caps from players of the 50s. Paying tribute to the caring woman in a statement, the club said, "Everyone at Partick Thistle Football Club is deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Susan Watson, a long-term supporter, season ticket holder and player sponsor, much loved by fellow fans. Susan passed away following an 18-month fight against cancer, which was found to be terminal at the time of diagnosis in the summer of 2022. First and foremost, the thoughts of all at the club are with those closest to Susan. A deeply personal individual, Susan's Firhill story began when she chose to support Thistle after falling for her red and yellow colours in her youth, which kick-started a lifelong love of the Jags. Her pride and joy was her incredible collection of Thistle memorabilia, much of it gleaned from eBay over the years and including Scotland caps from players of the 50s, all in custom-built display cases. She was a relentless supporter of Thistle player sponsorships, providing valuable revenue to the club year after year. Every bit as much as that helped the club, equally it presented Susan with an ever-growing challenge to accommodate literally hundreds of strips and other items, which have led to her having her own Partick Thistle museum, occupying an entire room of her Edinburgh home. The other great love in Susan's life could be found in that very Edinburgh home, her miniature wire-haired dachshund, but even her four-legged friend has some Firhill flavour. For Susan's beloved dog was christened Doolin, and many a walk and much companionship did Susan and Doolin enjoy together. But nowhere was Susan happier than at Firhill. The picture which accompanies this tribute was taken by club photographer Donald Wilson and, in the words of one of Susan's closest friends, captures Susan perfectly in her happy place. It is beautiful, just like Susan. Partick Thistle has lost a truly brilliant supporter of the club, but that's nothing compared to the loss felt by those closest to Susan, who we again send her love, thoughts and condolences to. We are here to help in any way we can in the tough days, weeks and months to come. Rest in peace, Susan Watson. You will not be forgotten. Once a Jag, always a Jag." And that article was written by Ben Waddell. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 16th of December, from the sports section. Rangers demand answers from Scottish FA over missed penalty. Article written by sports writer David Irvin. Rangers Chief Executive Patrick Stewart has demanded answers over the major penalty decision in the Premier Sports Cup final against Celtic. Rangers officials feel they should have been awarded a spot kick when Vaclav Cerny was hauled down by Liam Scales in extra time. However, John Beaton signalled for a free kick with no intervention from VAR, despite replays appearing to show the Rangers winger's foot on the line when he was brought down. IFAB rules state, if a defender starts holding an attacker outside the penalty area and continues holding inside the penalty area, the referee must award a penalty kick. It's understood Rangers have now held talks with the Scottish FA to seek clarification over the incident and receive an explanation as to why a penalty was not given. New CEO Stewart only started in his Ibrox post on Monday, but it's thought one of his first tasks was to speak with Hampden officials and referee Chief Willie Collum over the matter. Rangers chiefs are intent on finding out why VAR technology was not utilised in the decision-making process and over Alan Muir's role in the VAR booth. Football can be amazing, great and amazing fun. It can be very cruel, Clement said on Sunday. This was a really cruel one. I think my team deserved more today, creating more chances than their opponent. Coming back in a good way, and then losing with penalties at the end, it stays a casino game at that moment. But also, I don't know if you saw the images, but my phone is overloaded with the penalty situation with Cerny, so I get hundreds of messages now about that. So that's also a really decisive moment for me. Yes, of course, I spoke to the referee. He cannot see that moment, but he didn't get the communication from the VAR to come and watch the screen. That's for me a really weird situation, that at least there's no look about that kind of situation in this kind of game. About the situation that the referee can make a decision. I didn't see it at the time because I still have quite good eyes, but I cannot see that much distance if the foot is outside or inside or on the line. So no, but my phone is full of messages from everybody. And that article was written by David Irvin. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 16th of December, from the sports section, SPFL launch investigation into unacceptable Celtic vs Rangers pyro, by sports writer David Irvin. Pyrotechnic displays from Celtic and Rangers supporters ahead of the Premier Sports Cup final are being probed by Police Scotland, with the SPFL adding the incidents to their ongoing disciplinary proceedings. Huge displays of flares were set off before kick-off at Hampden Park, with the match delayed as smoke blew across the pitch and out of the stadium. Both sets of supporters had been issued warnings against the use of pyrotechnics, but the pleas from the SPFL were disregarded at Sunday's final. Now, the governing body has vowed the pyro incidents will be considered within the disciplinary proceedings against both Rangers and Celtic for similar incidents at Hampden in the semi-final ties. The SPFL will also review the match delegates' report with other matters, including the unacceptable encroachment of supporters when they spilled onto trackside at full time, with Celtic fans celebrating the penalty shootout triumph. An SPFL statement read, "Sunday's Premier Sports Cup final was an enthralling match, filled with twists and turns. Both teams deserve huge credit for the part they played in one of the most exciting cup finals in recent memory. Celtic and Rangers put on a display of passionate, dramatic and end-to-end football, which showcased all that is best about our game. Everyone at the SPFL would like to pass on our congratulations to the players, management and directors of Celtic on their trophy win, and we also send our commiserations to everyone connected with Rangers who helped make it such a thrilling showpiece event. However, the SPFL, Police Scotland and the Scottish FA have been clear that the unauthorised use of pyrotechnics is illegal and unsafe. Therefore, the disruptive displays which took place before and during Sunday's match were completely unacceptable and again led to a delay to the start of the match. The SPFL will liaise with Police Scotland regarding their investigations into this illegal behaviour, and these events will be considered as part of the SPFL's ongoing disciplinary investigations into both clubs regarding the use of pyrotechnics. The SPFL is awaiting the match delegates' report following the game, which will also consider other matters, including the unacceptable encroachment of supporters onto the Hampden Park trackside area during and after the match." And that article was written by David Irvin and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 16th of December, from the sports section, the unwanted Rangers tag Philip Clement now has versus Celtic. Article written by Mark Walker. Philip Clement now has the worst Old Firm record as a Rangers manager since the First World War. The Belgian boss saw his side defeated on penalties in the Premier Sports Cup final to Celtic after a thrilling 3-3 draw at Hampden. It's now 6 games without a win for Clement against Celtic, with 4 of those defeats in 90 minutes. And the last time Rangers went 6 Old Firm games without a win was under William Walton from 1912 to 1914. Celtic won 6 games in a row in that spell, with the last of those coming in November 1914 in a 2-1 victory, when World War I was already 5 months old. Walton later died in a tragic boating accident in 1920. But Clement still has 4 more games to avoid the tag of the manager with the worst ever run in the Glasgow Showdowns. Hoops managerial legend Willie Malley went 10 games without a win in this fixture from 1931 to 1935, although 6 of those games were draws. The sequence ended at Ibrox in September 1935, where Celtic won 2-1, their first win at Rangers Stadium since 1921. And an article was written by Mark Walker. That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.